Hello again. Hello again. Hello again. Welcome back to the Bernie Miklasz Show here on my YouTube channel on this busy Monday. Lots going on, and but I wanted to pick a game tonight. Tell you who's going to win the national championship between Ohio State and Notre Dame, and tell you the reasons why, and also tell you whether I think Notre Dame can cover the point spread. That's what I've been doing throughout this year's first 12-team National College Football Playoff. And my record going into the final game of the year in the playoff, I am 10-0 straight up, and I am 6-4 against the spread. And I think I've mentioned this before, but there's one or two that after the fact just wanted to pull my hair out, all of it, for being a little short-sighted. But no, listen, man. I don't care what kind of sport you're wagering on. When you against the spread, when you hit 60%, there's nothing to hang your head over. I know some people that aren't familiar with this, think that unless you against the spread, you're winning like 80%, 90% of the time. You don't know what you're doing or whatever. I don't know. So let's get to it. One more night of college football, Notre Dame against Ohio State. The point spread is been floating today on Monday. It's either Notre Dame as an 8.5-point underdog or as a 9-point underdog. I just hope that this one will be a game where all the players come out healthy, that we'll have a thrilling, enjoyable game, and that none of the Notre Dame or Ohio State players enter the transfer portal at halftime. If all those three things come true, it'll be a good night. It's a fun matchup. Ohio State's got the most talented team in college football, but took a horrendous upset loss against arch rival Michigan to shake and rattle themselves up. And they regroup by changing their defensive scheme for a better pass rush. And they changed their offensive strategy. They burned the Michigan script and then just opened up the passing game in the playoffs right at the start instead of playing Woody Hayes football, because it ain't easy to stop Ohio State when they're winging the ball all over the place. But they're too hung up on trying to prove they're a physical team or something. More on that later. Both of these reinventions of the schemes on the fly enabled Ohio State to go on a remarkable revenge and redemption tour. Counted after being taken down by the Wolverines, the Buckeyes entered the playoffs. They beat Tennessee, Oregon, and Texas by an average of 17 points. And though Texas gave Ohio State a game, got a little hairy there in the semifinal matchup, I actually think that was good for Ohio State, because Texas had Ohio State backed into a corner, man. It looked like they were about to tie the game, send it into overtime. But Coach Ryan Day's team showed admirable championship caliber character and punched back instead of folding. They won by 14 points on that what was it, last play, fourth down, strip sack, fumble, return for a touchdown, and Ohio State wins that one 28-14. And I think maybe that old as in going back to the Michigan game, that old Ohio State team probably would have lost this one. What can you say about Notre Dame, man? What a wonderful, magical run. What a fun season. I don't think anybody would have expected it after they lost to Northern Illinois second week of the year. Maybe the worst upset loss ever in Notre Dame football history. I don't know. You Notre Dame fans ought to decide that one. But anyway, since that incredible loss, Notre Dame's won 13 consecutive games. 7 have been by 3 touchdowns or more. The Irish proved themselves 3 times in the playoff with a decisive win over Indiana. It was really a blowout. Final score was misleading. A slug-it-out triumph over Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, and then prevailing in a classic old-style Midwestern brawl with Penn State. In the rating systems that matter the most, Ohio State comes in tonight at number 1 and Notre Dame number 2. I'm talking about just the power ratings all around. So we got the top 2 teams for sure in this one tonight. According to Sagarin Metrics, which is always my go-to, Ohio State's played the 20th toughest schedule this season. Notre Dame's schedule's ranked 44th in terms of strength. Against Sagarin's top 10 teams, Ohio State's 5-1. Notre Dame is 3-0. There doesn't seem to be like a huge difference between these teams if we go by the entire body of work, although I do recognize some teams are playing just in general during the course of the season. Some teams will peak early and kind of fade out, and their overall stats will look great, but they're kind of misleading. I don't know. I don't know if that applies with these two teams. Ohio State is number 2 in offensive efficiency compared to Notre Dame being number 14 in offensive efficiency. Notre Dame's the number 1 team nationally in defensive efficiency. Ohio State's close by at number 3. The overall performance of the program's special teams units are largely in the same area. Although Notre Dame with that kickoff return for a touchdown to start the second half, beating Georgia, that was huge. For Notre Dame to win, they'll have to go with the same style of football that worked effectively during the season for several of Ohio State opponents. Because I'm trying to read a little bit. You know that. You see me looking down. Nebraska, Penn State, Michigan, and Texas. You got to be very physical. You got to win the battles up front. You slow the pace of the game. Give yourself a chance to win late. Nebraska actually led Ohio State 17-14 in the fourth quarter, but they fell in a tough one. But Cornhuskers came close. Penn State trailed the Buckeyes by only 3 in the fourth quarter, but the Buckeyes hung tough at Penn State and won that one, put it away with a late score. Michigan, as you know, it was a 10-10 draw at the half when they played it at Ohio State. But Michigan Wolverines shut out the Buckeyes offense in the entire second half and pulled off that stunning 13-10 victory. Texas was able to drag Ohio State into the fourth quarter, 14-14 tie in the fourth, but the Buckeyes made the winning plays over the final 7.5 minutes or so, including that famous strip sack fumble return for a touchdown just when it seemed that Texas was about to punch it in, or at least had a heck of a chance to get it in there to send the game to overtime. I think Ohio State's got a clear advantage over Notre Dame in the passing game. More playmakers, a better thrower quarterback, more dangerous receivers out on the outside. Notre Dame quarterback Riley Leonard, and I'm a fan, man. I love to watch him play, so I'm a fan. He doesn't back down, and he's a nifty runner, and he can do some damage tonight by picking his spots and galloping through that Ohio State defense. We'll see how many called runs there are as opposed to freelance runs. As for pure passing attack, right, Ohio State's their defense has recently faced, all due respect, much better passers than Notre Dame's quarterback Leonard. They had Dylan Gabriel in the quarterfinals, Quinn Ewers in the semifinals. And unless there's a defensive screw-up, I just don't see Notre Dame beating Ohio State vertically. And Riley Leonard has thrown just as many interceptions, 3, as touchdown passes, 3, in the 3 playoff games. Notre Dame's going to have to do a little better than average in 170 yards passing tonight, if that's where they've been in the playoff. If they stay in that area tonight, it's probably not going to be their night. And the thing about Notre Dame that's frustrating as a fan of this Notre Dame team, but also a fan of St. Louisans who played major college football, and also just fans of great talent. If we knew that St. Louis and Jeremiah Love was fully healthy and at top speed and was able to go all night, Notre Dame would be close, I think, to matching Ohio State's highly effective rushing attack, and in some way probably have a more explosive capability running the ball. But Love, who's a big play guy, he has been limited in playing time, as you know, and he's an important X factor in this game. So entering the fray, because I don't know the condition of Jeremiah Love, I give Ohio State the edge at running back. I do think Notre Dame is at a disadvantage on the team health standpoint, that they've lost too many good players during the playoff drive, and that likely will make their assignment much more difficult tonight. Ohio State quarterback Will Howard had trouble against some of the more imposing physical defenses that Ohio State's played this season. And Notre Dame's pass defense is, in fact, imposing. Notre Dame's going to need a couple of takeaways and one big special teams play to spring the upset, I think. And a shaky game by Howard could change everything. If you're a Notre Dame fan, here's what you should be rooting for tonight, other than the Irish winning. In addition to those couple of takeaways and a big play on special teams, you need to hope that Ryan Day is trying to coach against the retired Notre Dame coach Lou Holtz tonight. What? What are you talking about? Yeah, instead of coaching against Marcus Freeman, you want him to be coaching in his head against Lou Holtz. You remember the story, and it's been repeated a lot this week or last week. Lou Holtz got into Day's head before the Buckeyes played at Notre Dame early in the 2023 season. I think it was the 5th game. Holtz absolutely enraged Day by saying, quote, "If you look at Coach Day, everyone that beats him does so because they're more physical than Ohio State." In other words, Holtz called Ryan Day's team soft. And after Ohio State held on for a 17-14 victory at South Bend, it was a screw up late by the Fighting Irish. A highly emotional and extremely agitated Ryan Day began just like shouting as soon as he was asked a question by the on-field reporter on network TV. Just started shouting about Lou Holtz, wondering where he was or what did he think about this and all this stuff. Asked this week or over the weekend if he had patched things up with Coach Holt, Day had a one-word answer: no. So Holtz, he's 88 years old, but he tried to egg Day on again by this in recent days by saying, and I quote, "If Notre Dame doesn't win, it's because we want to preserve Ryan Day's job. I was originally going to be at the game in spirit, but now I'll be dragging my body along as well." I'm stammering because I'm having some fun here, and I'm trying to go through this too fast. So he's still trying to stay in Ryan Day's head. So why do I say Day can't try to coach against Holt? Proving a point to Holt. Well, because when Ohio State digs in and they go full caveman and they try to outmuscle opponents on the ground, Day and offensive coordinator Chip Kelly make it a lot easier for the opposing defense. They actually limit their own team doing it that way against good opponents anyway. Day and Kelly have made mistakes this season by really being stubborn as a mules, leaning on the power running game when they should be speeding up the tempo and spreading the ball around out there on the perimeter, out there in space to all those gifted playmakers they have. When Ohio State finally opened up and attacked on early downs, as they did in the playoff, the offense reached peak form on an entirely new dimension. And if Notre Dame tries to play its preferred man-to-man coverage, well, good luck with that tonight, because Ohio State's got a lot of guys. Even against Texas, which took away Jeremiah Jeremiah Smith? Is that his name? The splendid Ohio State receiver. They took him away, and it didn't matter because Ohio State had plenty of guys to distribute the ball to. So the key to this game will be Ohio State's on first and second down. They can't play into Notre Dame's hands by predictably running the ball. Be creative. Get Will Howard moving. Roll him out, move the pocket, pick up the easy yards on quick throws, and then you use that to set up some downfield strikes with those explosive playmakers. And once the Buckeyes establish that, first down, pass. Second down, quick pass. Then deep shot. We can hit the deep shot. All right, you do that, then you can settle in with your running game and pound away. But don't revert back to the leather helmet football on first and second downs. That's at Ohio State. That's exactly why they lost to Michigan and had such a difficult time against other teams. All right, I'm going with Ohio State for a few reasons. I trust that Day and Kelly will keep the Michigan script in the trash can. Ohio State's got more overall talent, better team health, more playmakers, better pass rush, number 1 sack percentage in college football, by the way. And they have 2 dangerous running backs, and one of them's a real weapon in the passing game. The Buckeyes, as I mentioned, they have the number 1 sack percentage among FBS teams. Their secondary tightened up and became a little more dangerous to opposing quarterbacks after the coaches moved Caleb Downs, who's just a great safety. They moved him to kind of more of a free range role. He'll be hawking, flying footballs tonight. And so Riley Leonard better watch out because he's got the freedom to kind of, just get after the ball. Against the Ohio State defense, I see Notre Dame scoring 14, maybe 17 points. I don't see the Irish getting to 20. Obviously, I could be wrong, but the number 20 looms large in this one. Here's why. Here's the stat. Teams that fail to score 21 points in national championship games played before this one are 1 in 15 straight up and 1 in 15 against the spread. You got to score points. History tells us in this game. You got to get to 21 or more, or you have virtually no chance if history is still our guide. I don't think that Ohio State will score 31 tonight, but if the Buckeyes, let's say, would get to 31, consider this. Teams that score 31 points or more in the national title games are 20-3 straight up and 19-4 against the spread in the last, I forget how many games that is. It doesn't go back all the way, but in a good long stretch of games leading into this one. Or maybe I have that wrong. Maybe I have that right anyway. 23 straight up, 19-4 against the spread. I apologize. The Buckeyes have reached 31 or more points in 11 of their 15 games this season, and they did it in the first 2 playoff games. All of that said, I think Notre Dame's going to make this a close fight. The point spread, as I mentioned, has been fluctuating today. It's either Ohio State favored by 8.5 or 9. Earlier in the day, I saw 9.5 out there. But either way, if it's 8.5 or it's 9, I have respect for Notre Dame's team, but also their stellar performance against the spread this season. And this is the key information if you're thinking about putting down a bet on the Irish to cover the point spread. Here are the trends for that. Notre Dame, 12-2-1 overall against the spread this season. 2-0 against the spread as an underdog. 8-0 against the spread in road or neutral games. 6-0 against teams against the spread against teams that have won at least 70% of their games this season. 8-1 ATS against the spread versus opponents that allow 25 points or less per game. That applies to Ohio State. So kind of across the board, you can see that. And on top of that, here's another trend. Teams in the national championship that have been favored by 5 points or more are 5-11 against the spread in the last 16 games, the last 16 natties. I'm looking for another tight one here. I think Ohio State will separate with the fourth quarter score, maybe come late fourth quarter score, and they'll defeat Notre Dame 27-19. But I'm kind of mixed in this one because I kind of like to see kind of like to see Notre Dame pull it off. But when I make these videos, it's about picking a straight up winner and picking against the spread. So I'm remaining loyal to that premise. But I think it'd be a lot of fun if this thing goes to the wire. Anyway, you all have a great night. Enjoy the football. Thanks for watching.